It seems trouble is brewing in Canada. Hundreds of Indian students have been staging protests against a new policy by the Justin Trudeau government that puts them at risk of being deported from the country. The new policy is aimed at reducing the number of permanent residency nominations by 25%, as well as limiting study permits. Now, why is the Trudeau government doing this? The government says the change is to give preference of jobs and housing to Canadians first. The change comes, remember, as Canada sees a rapid population growth over the last few years. As per federal data, about 97% of last year's population increase in Canada was driven by immigration. Remember, many international students, particularly those from India, aspire to move to Canada in hopes of building a better life. But the new immigration policy changes have left the future of more than 70,000 student graduates in uncertainty. Indian students have been camping in front of the Legislative Assembly in Canada's Prince Edward Island province, protesting this policy change. In fact, similar demonstrations were also seen in the provinces of Ontario, Manitoba, and British Columbia. Many suggest that amid a local housing and job crisis, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government is under pressure to reduce the number of temporary residents. Added to that, his continuous low numbers in popularity polls of an election next year. Let's try and understand this situation better on the broadcast. First, I'm joined by Daniel Bordman, a Canadian journalist. We will be joined by a student as well as an immigration expert a bit later as well. Daniel, good evening. Namaskar. Welcome to Mirror Now. Let me understand from you what is happening in Canada as far as the immigration policy is concerned. Here's a man, Justin Trudeau, who has been supporting immigrants all this while, and now he up with a policy saying that we want to reduce the number of temporary residents here. Why is that?
Well, because his policy is cataclysmically failed and everyone in the country is turning against him on it. And he's been losing people among the left who are seeing the destruction wrought by these open immigration policies with absolutely minimal vetting. And it's hurting everyone. It's not just hurting Canadians, but it's hurting a lot of the Indian students who are being scammed into Canada. They're being sold this Canadian dream. You're being told that, well, most students are signing pieces of paper because you can't stay here is the thing. If you're coming to study, you have to study here and then go back to where you came from a bit, and then you can apply again for permanent residency, or then you can go to the next step. But you do have to go back. They're being told by people in India and in Canada, scammers on both sides of this, the border, that, oh, no, you can work around this. We can get you in. Some people come in and then they get student visas. One of the scams is they then to be refugees from the Punjab region. Pakistanis get involved here. There's even someone who's now claiming to be a refugee from their own parents. Their parents are mean, so they need refugee status in Canada. This is the level of absurdity it's getting to. And these people are either, a lot of it's human trafficking. They're being forced to pay thousands of dollars for services they don't need. Some of it is scam. Being sold a job market that doesn't exist. Them are going to universities or accredited organizations that are they're strip malls with a bunch of schools inside these malls and universities that offer you online classes, so they don't really prepare you for anything. You end up basically becoming an Uber driver all night. You live in a house and share a room with 5 or 6 people where you sleep on the floor and you pay exorbitant amounts of rent. So this is the situation people are getting into. It's not benefiting anyone. And the government, 72 hours ago, Justin Trudeau would have called Justin Trudeau from current day a despicable racist. There's no place in Canada. And we need immigration at maximum levels because immigration is always good. If there's any problems in the country since 2015, the answer has been just throw immigration at it. It increases the GDP supposedly, but not GDP per capita, because you of course have more GDP in a country of 40 million people.
Which is what I'm coming to next, Daniel.
30 million.
The fact that this comes ahead of an election, I can't help but ask how much of this actually has political influences, actually has the reasoning of Justin Trudeau's popularity dipping and the kind of local domestic challenges that he's been facing at home in terms of housing and the job crisis that his government probably hasn't been able to resolve.
It's 114% because of that. And there's even reports now that they're trying to fast track as many people as they can. They're skipping the vetting process to get as many. Listen, the Canadian economy, our number one is we shut down the resource industry under Trudeau because that's bad and climate change and blah, 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 blah. So it's better to buy it from Gulf states and communist states like Venezuela. That will get our energy there. So our number one economy is human trafficking and money laundering. And the Liberals and most of the government has a sort of a finger in the pie in this. So a lot of these kids from other places too are being scammed with this Canadian dream, being forced to pay thousands, go into these institutions, but then funnel money back to the political parties and so on and so forth. It's gotten to the point where they literally cannot hide the damage this is doing to the country, where everyone can see it, everyone can feel it, economically, socially, the country's in a very bad spot. So in order to, I think, save the brand of the Liberal Party long term, they're going to do this sort of smoke and mirror show. They're going to say, okay, we're going to actually crack down on some of this, and we can't just have people going through this pipeline where they come as students, they go to fake schools, and then they claim refugee status or whatever or anything, and then get to stay in the country indefinitely. It's not how the system is designed to work, and a lot of Canadians feel bad for a lot of people scammed into here. But we went from a country of 30 million people to 40 million people rapidly, and that has consequences. As you point out, 90% of the population growth is immigration. So we're having very, very hard times integrating these people if most of the people you're interacting with are recent immigrants from different places. And it's not that Canadians are racist, but it's just coming to the stark reality that if people aren't speaking the languages, don't understand the culture, there's going to be discord. I mean, I saw one of the student protests, there's a bunch of students protesting in Brampton that they failed their exams and they want to still get their degrees anyway, despite failing. And the protests aren't in English. They're in Punjabi. They can't even speak English. And Canadians are looking at this going, what the heck is going on? This isn't like we think of student immigration coming for you're going to go to McGill or you're going to go to Queen's or the University of Toronto, real schools, and get real degrees. But that's not what happened. You're going to Polytechnic Institute of Counting to 4 in Brampton, and you're taking an online course in nothing, and you're getting these diploma mill degrees, and your kids, you feel bad for them because they think they're going to come to Canada, they're going to work hard, they're going to be able to afford a house and a job and get something. No, they're going to end up getting a fake degree, doing Uber all night, and living in a house with 13 other guys.
Okay. Daniel, let me ask you my last question. When implemented, do you think, how much do you think would it actually have an impact on ground? How much would it influence the average Canadian voter ahead of the election? How much would it actually help the country's revenue? Because we know immigrants are getting in the revenue as well. How does that work out then?
So it's like revenue to who, right? So this is where they've played the fudge the numbers game. Like if you want, mega corporations that need cheap labor, yeah, they're getting it in. And, people, I do feel bad because we're kind of focusing on the hardworking immigrants or the kids who are struggling doing Uber all night. Like you feel bad for them because they're at least trying to contribute and trying to make it. The real scam is people just come into the country, declare refugee status or some phony thing, and just live off benefits the entire time. Like that is the bigger problem. That's where I'd like us to focus on the deportations. But there's been a whole imbalance. So Canadians are always very pro-immigrant. Everyone has a story of this, but you can't have the rates of immigration we've had, right? In order to integrate properly, you need immigration at a lower rate. You can't have zero, right? Because that would be bad. The country would collapse at zero immigration, but they can't have complete open borders. And since 2015, we've pushed the total complete open borders. All immigration is good. Vetting is racist. All the sort of far left things you think of when you think of silly Western politicians, that's been Canada for the last 10 years. So we've completely broken the scale, and we've gone so far off the deep end to the mass migration side that there's going to be a correction. Because the fact that you're seeing Canadians protesting immigration in a country that's probably the most pro-immigration country in the world, used to be before Justin Trudeau, just shows that you can break an immigration system with just completely it's most Canadians. And you can find interviews. If you interview an Indian who came here 3 years ago, they'll say it's too much because most immigrants will get in within 6 months. Their policy is just shut the door behind me because it's too much. The market's saturated, and this isn't This isn't the life in Canada they were promised by maybe they were promised by media and seeing things from like 20 years ago, and maybe they were scammed into it by some malicious actors. But either way, like the promise that is Canada is not being fulfilled, and it's hurting the kids over, and it's hurting Canadians. And the Liberal government's been profiting off of it, but now everyone's so mad and has realized the problem that the Liberals are pretending to take a hard stance against this.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it there. Daniel Bordman, thank you very much for joining us at the moment on the broadcast and sharing your perspective on this entire situation. Viewers, on the broadcast, I'm also joined by Rajiv Arora, immigration expert, and Mehakdeep Singh, a former student who in fact is facing deportation. Good evening. Namaskar to both of you. Mehakdeep Singh, let me come to you first and understand from you, what is your situation currently? You are facing deportation. Why are you facing deportation?
Right now, I'm not facing deportation, but I'm on visitor record. So my work permit was expired in last month in July. So I applied for a visitor record and I got it. So I'm not right now. I'm on a visitor record. The only option I have is to buy a LMIA. Here the LMI mafia is going on. So they sell it for like $30,000-$40,000, and then we got an offer letter. That's a job offer from employer, and we can extend our work permit. The only option left with me is that, but I'm not going for that. I never support the exploitation. So it's totally exploiting the international students or the PGWP holders. Yeah.
Which is what I want to understand from you, Mehakdeep. What do you think of these new changes that the Canadian government has brought in the immigration policy? They are saying they will reduce the number of foreign immigrants. They will also reduce the number of housing temporary residents that is given. The Indian students there are protesting. What are your concerns?
So they are changing the policies overnight. So, for example, I can take my example as well. I worked as a baker in last 1 year from 2023 and till 2024 July, till I got my work permit expired. I worked as a baker. Last year they were taking the files of baker and approving it in just 3 months. And in this year, I got that I got to listen from the community that they are just giving preferences to transportation and healthcare staff. So they are no more. They don't need any more other convenience store workers or the pizza store workers, as well bakers also. So last year it was a scale job, but these days they don't need bakers. So this is they are changing according to their own needs. But we got exploited by the government in the like last years. Yeah.
Okay, let me go across to Rajiv Arora, immigration expert. Rajiv Arora, what do you make of this? The students have their concerns, like Mehakdeep said, that, the government in Canada has been changing their guidelines continuously, and they're bringing in sudden changes. What does one do at that time? How does this affect Indian students, this new policy change?
Hi, look, in my opinion, I would say gates for Canada immigration cannot be open forever, right? There has to be limitation. Canada immigration is a strategic immigration system. They have invited a lot of thousands and thousands of people in the past, but it cannot go forever. Because if they will invite, will give permanent residencies to people without counting the numbers, how would they accommodate people under social security? How would they accommodate people under health insurance? How would people will be accommodated under free education? Right? So there has to be a limit.
Rajiv Arora, my question is, did the Canadian government not think about this earlier? Suddenly you remember that you have stricter rules and you have to limit the numbers. Did you not think this through when you were coming up with the immigration policy? That time you thought it's all about inclusivity and the revenue that the immigrants are getting in.
Every country thinks about them first. This is what I would say. If we are Indians, we always think about our nation first, irrespective of other nationalities. So Canada immigration is also thinking in their perspective. They want to stabilize the economy of the country. Right now, housing crisis is going on. We have to thankful. People who have got their permanent residencies and who have migrated to Canada on a PR and who had a dream of it, they should be grateful for this. And students, if I talk about, if they have studied in Canada, they would have got their work permit also. If they have got their work permit, they would have they would be able to meet their CRS score also. That is that comes under express entry round of invitation. So there is a policy under CEC class. Still, students can get their permanent residency.
Okay.
You have to be competent. You must have required CRS score and required English speaking. Your scores. If you are meeting your educational requirements, IELTS requirements, then you can get your permanent residency today as well. So Canada Immigration is saying, if you have come on study here, we have given you work permit as well for 1 year to 3 years time. After taking your work permit, even now, if you are not able to score up to the mark, then you can go back to your country and you can come back once under any permanent residency program. So students have got their study, have got completed their study, they have got their work permits, and now approximately 70,000 students are about to be deported. Is what the report says, if it happens. So these are those students who are not able to touch that particular CRS score. Otherwise, if we talk about low wage LMIA, the biggest news is from Justin Trudeau, that is about low wage LMIA reduction. So they have restricted all the employers that no employer can hire more than 10% of the staff who is a foreign worker. They would not approve any LMIA to people, right?
You know,
so
Rajiv Arora, let me take
the
this across to Mehakdeep and understand from him. Mehakdeep, you know, what Rajiv Arora is saying, that a lot of Indian students don't have the required CRS score, the required guidelines are not met, and the documents are not in place by Indian students, and those are the people who will possibly face deportation if they do eventually.
Okay, so first of all, I will take example, like if I am organizing an event and I'm inviting 100 guests, like, right? So I will be responsible what to do with those 100 guests, how to provide them with the food, with the seating arrangements and everything, right? So they were not planned for that. To just to complete the economy, to build the economy after the COVID, they have opened the door for the unlimited immigrants, right? In 2021, 2 and 3 till now. So now they got to know they have used the previous immigrants who came in 2018, 19 and 20. They have already used them, and now it's time to send them back and use the new ones. And another thing, as Rajiv said, like we are not getting that much score. For that, the Canada government never gave CEC laws in last 2 years and 8 months. So it's a big time. 2 years and 8 months, they never gave any CEC draw in which we qualify. So due to that, there is a number of students sitting in the pool. So if they have given the draws in that, there
Rajiv
will never
Arora,
be
you want
this
to
problem.
respond to what Mehakdeep is saying?
Brother, I would.
Rajiv, you want to respond to what Mehakdeep is saying?
I would love to.
There were probably lapses.
I would love to respond. Mehdi, brother, I totally sympathize and empathize with you. I'm totally with my Indian community. I want everybody should get the permanent residency. This is my wish. But Canada Immigration has given general round of draws also in the past. If CEC class has been started in the past 3-4 months, it was on pause for 2 years. But before that, they gave invitations to each and everyone who was falling under Canadian experience class, even with a CRS score of 75 in the year 2021. They gave permanent residency to each and everybody who was inside Canada with the lowest CRS score of 75. So that is the history. And after that, they have been giving invitation under general round of invitation, or they are giving now invitation under Canadian experience class. So they are giving preference to Canadians. They are giving preference to people who are already in Canada and are working in Canada. So what would I say? The decision of Canada government is actually appropriate in my opinion. They have to balance out the situation. Otherwise, people of different countries would seek for asylum. They would love to leave their country, flee from their country, would love to settle in Canada only at any status, which is practically not possible. You cannot please thousands and lakhs of people. So, and Canada has taken the right step, and in the future, Canadian economy housing situations will go better, and that is good for all other people who are living in Canada as of now, even who are Indians, like my relatives, my
Okay.
friends. It will be good for them
Okay.
as well in Canada.
Yes, Rajiv. Sure. Okay. Before I wrap this up, let me quickly ask Mehakdeep. Mehakdeep, lots of Indian students have been protesting there in Canada. What is your next step? Quickly, if you could tell us.
Okay, and one thing I need to tell, like they started giving CC draws from May, and they started protesting from April. So after that, they got like there are Canadians sitting in the country also who need CC draws. That's why they started giving these CC draws. And I'm a from India. I worked there for 3 years as a supervisor. I have 777 in IELTS, so I'm just at 461, doing every single thing I can do. So the
Okay.
only left thing is LMIA. I can't buy that. And on the protest things, we are going to make it more strong in the coming days. And on 30th of August, again, we are going to protest. And I need to update one more thing. There is a in the last couple months, they have announced they are closing the public and private college collab. They have banned that. The DLI for
Okay.
those colleges was suspended, and now this thing going on in Canada. Those private colleges are failing students just to gain the profit from them. And I'm standing right there at the protest.
Okay.
St. Clair College have hundred of students just to get the profit because new students are not coming to this college
Okay.
from this
Okay.
September.
Okay, Mehakdeep, I'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much to both of you, Rajiv Arora and Mehakdeep Singh, for joining us today on Mirror Now and sharing your perspective. Thank you very much.